Okay, next up on our list is a couple of more adult live action and, some of the other things that I couldn't really find much of a category for. So I picked, technically speaking, 6 movies here to talk about in this part. So let's start with these guys. My slipcovers. This is the slipcover case and release of Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Deemed by many one of the worst movies and one of the best movies of all time at the same time. See? One of the most spectacular movies ever made, even though it's literally one of the worst, and it's all thanks to him. Now, this movie is infamous for many reasons. One of the biggest being the fact that the label's upside down. Well, go figure that one out, huh? And hey, it has a print date of January 30th, 1992. But I love the fact that the print date, that the label's upside down. That is amazing. Probably unhealthy for the tape, but I digress. It doesn't really matter to me. I enjoy this movie nonetheless. But again, this movie is very infamous for Kevin Costner putting up one of the worst performances of Robin Hood out there, but also because of Alan Rickman putting up one of the greatest villain performances out there. And considering he's been both, he was frickin', what's his name? And I can't think of his name in Die Hard. Hans Gruber, there you go. Since he was Hans Gruber in Die Hard and Severus Snape in Harry Potter, you'd think that this one would be like somewhere in the middle, but no, this is, his Sheriff of Nottingham is probably one of the funniest takes on a villain out that you could possibly get. It is so over the top. He is such a Disney villain in this movie that it is so flippin' funny. Going from a movie that wasn't supposed to be funny to a movie that is supposed to be funny. Uh-oh. South Park. Bigger, longer, and uncut. This movie is an absolute treasure. That, honestly, I'm amazed I only ever saw the first 5 minutes of when I was a kid. One day, me and my friend Scott was sleeping at my house, and we're watching TV at like 1 in the morning, and this little baby pops up. So my mom comes out, and she's like, "What are you guys doing? Why are you still up?" And we're like, "Oh, we're just watching a movie." And she's like, "Oh, it's cartoon. I like it." Until you got to some of the humor. When one of the first few musical numbers in this movie is called "Shut Your Fucking Face, Uncle Fucker," you have a classic. This was critically acclaimed when it first came out, and as we all know, South Park has gone into cultural heaven. It is one of the most critically acclaimed shows, and this movie is an absolute treasure to behold. If you want to understand the plot of this movie, good luck. You're probably never going to predict it. Like, truly, sincerely. If you could predict it without having seen it already, I would be really proud of you if you could. Just saying. Okay, we've tackled these two. Let's go for a big gun. Oh, my lord. Gone with the Wind. Now, this is the 50th anniversary collector's edition of Gone with the Wind. Now, at first when I bought this, I thought it was a Laserdisc. So I almost bugged out where I was like, oh my god, I could actually have a Laserdisc for my collection. It's not a Laserdisc. In fact, I think the box is stuck. 1 second. There you go. Oh, that's why the tape is put in incorrectly. There you go. Here you go. Gone with the Wind is one of the most famous, infamous, and downright bizarre movies in the history of Hollywood. It went from being an absolute treasure that everybody loved to being the most uncomfortably racist movie in Hollywood, outside of, Birth of a Nation. But I don't think this is that bad. It's definitely not warranted of being absolutely blocked and banned off of everything. And it even comes with some ancillary stuff. Like, look at this. A whole playlist of who the actors and actresses were that were in this movie. And this poor lady passed away recently. She was the last standing person in all of Gone with the Wind. And it's a shame. Actually, I think Bonnie Butler's actress is still alive. I'll have to look that up. And it's a bit of a behind-the-scenes look at both the making of the story and how they viewed each other, how they viewed their performances. You have Scarlett O'Hara, you have Rhett Butler, and from my opinion of this movie, which we even have a proof of purchase and a rebate coupon, which probably expired in the 80s. Let's see. When did you expire? Oh, March 31st, 1990. Darn, we just missed it. I wasn't even born yet. And here are the two videos of Gone with the Wind. One is part 1, one is part 2. Now, if you're going to ask me, part 1 is the best part of this story. It has all the pathos, the drama, the romance, and all that of part 1 of the Civil War. And part 2 just gets a little too soap opera-ish for me. But that's just my personal take on it. I love this movie, chiefly... Oh, shit. Come on. No, I didn't mean you to fall. I meant this to get in there. There you go. I love this movie personally. I don't understand a lot of the flack it gets, but hey, what you gonna do? It is Gone with the Wind, and it is a treasure of cinematic history. Another piece of treasured cinematic history is the Star Wars trilogy. Unfortunately, these are the special editions, but what are you gonna do? I almost bought the original films on video, but unfortunately, I left my wallet at home the last time I was there, so I didn't get to go get that. Unfortunately. But for the sake of argument, for those of you who live under a rock, the Star Wars trilogy is one of the most famous trilogies that has ever been made. Based on science fiction and the work of George Lucas, it covers the Rebel Alliance and its battle against the Empire. It began all with Star Wars in 1977, with its sequel, The Empire Strikes Back, in 1980, and finally, Return of the Jedi in 1983. Guess I was thinking Revenge of the Sith at that point. Star Wars is one of the most popular franchises out there. So much so that... Let's put you to this side for now. So much so that it has since become a cultural milestone, unlike pretty much any other movie out there. Now, these are the special editions, in which, in case you don't know, George Lucas went back and started editing his movies digitally, if you will, because the man had an unhealthy obsession with flipping computers, and we all know how that ended up with the prequels, but I digress. The changes he made in the original Star Wars were probably the most insulting. With, of course, the infamous unnecessary additions to the Mos Eisley scenes, the unnecessary CGI dewbacks, and, of course, Greedo shooting from 2 feet away from Han Solo and missing, but just to make sure Han wasn't the one who shot first. It's a mess. Empire Strikes Back was probably the one that was changed the least of the three. And this one is the perfect sequel, if you ask me. Gotta give it to Irvin Kershner, who basically took over directing from George Lucas. This movie is an utter masterpiece of filmmaking. Not only just filmmaking, but storytelling and just everything in general. And of course, this is the one with the big, most famous Star Wars secret and saga and shenanigan ever revealed. The secrets of Luke Skywalker's origins and the identity of Darth Vader. Last but not least of the Star Wars trilogy is Return of the Jedi. The one that everybody just sort of deals with. Return of the Jedi, to me, is probably one of the weaker of the Star Wars films, but again, it has elements in it that could make you consider it to be one of the best. In terms of the special edition changes for this one, there really isn't that much except for a couple of scenes in Jabba's palace that were just completely unnecessary changes. And of course, they changed the ending scenes where after the Death Star blows up, they changed the singing, dancing Ewoks, which a lot of people liked from the first version. Yeah, this was basically where George Lucas started to go downhill. But these were 6 other films that I have in my collection, and we're going to be taking a look at the documentary series Baseball next. So, until we meet again, you guys stay classy.